Ultimately, what we are distracted from is living. It didn't start with you. Helen Jennings, a 67-year-old resident of the BC interior region, is caring for her two grandchildren. Their father, her son, having died of an overdose. Her other son suffered the same fate. As I interviewed her, it occurred to me that Helen, even being willing to speak with me, was remarkable. Knowing my view that addiction originates in childhood trauma, most often in the family of origin. When I go back and look at my sons' lives, I understand that there was a lot of trauma, she explained. I was living with them, so I was part of that. I was a single parent from the time they were 3 and 2 until I remarried. When they were 6 and 7, I understand that how I lived was what I was doing, what I knew, and what I didn't know affected them. After the birth, father abandoned the family early. A stepfather abused the boys both physically and emotionally. I was very lonely and scared and feeling trapped. Helen recalled that she would lack the gut sense not to choose such men, that she would not assert herself and protect her sons in the face of abuse, were themselves the marks of trauma sustained in Helen's own childhood. Apart from being physically hit on her bare bottom by her father, up until age 10, Helen endured emotional torment. I was ashamed a lot for my feelings as a child, she recalled. I was very sensitive and I cried a lot. Trauma is in most cases multi generational. The chain of transmission goes from parent to child, stretching from the past into the future. We pass on to our offsprings what we haven't resolved in ourselves. The home becomes a place where we unwittingly recreate, as I did, scenarios reminiscent of those that wounded us when we were small. Traumas affect mothers and mothering, and fathers and fathering, and husbanding and wifing. The family constellation therapist Mark Wolvin told me. The repeated traumas continue to proliferate from that as a result that they never get healed. Walvin is the author of the aptly titled It Didn't Start With You. How I Inherited Family Trauma Shapes Who We Are, and How to End the Cycle. Trauma may even affect gene activity across generations, as we will see. It is no surprise that Helen's eldest grandson has faced problems with substance abuse and behavior and learning difficulties. Because of all she has learned and despite her unfathomable losses, she is able to present for him much more warmly and effectively than she ever could be for her own sons. Note 2. The absence of self judgment in Helen's description of the situation she speaks of understanding rather than castigating herself for what she couldn't understand way back when. The act of blaming herself, its gravitational center planted permanently in the past, would only divert her from showing up for her loved one in the here and now.